What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be going over 40 Easter eggs, references, and trivia from the film Ghostbusters Afterlife. We already did an Easter egg video for the original Ghostbusters film, Ghostbusters 2, and we also reviewed both those films as well as this film, which you can check out in the description and comments below. We do Easter egg videos a few times a month, so hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Alright, starting off, when Egon is being attacked on the chair by Gozer, it mirrors the scene in the original Ghostbusters film where Dana is being attacked on her chair and being possessed by Zuul. McKenna Grace, who plays Phoebe, wears the same glass frames as the late great Harold Ramis wore as Dr. Egon Spangler in the original Ghostbusters film. The Spanglers being evicted and having to find a new home kind of mirrors what happened to Venkman, Ray, and Egon in the first film, where they were fired from the university and needed to find a new place to establish their ghostbusting duties. When the Spanglers arrive at Egon's home, they encounter an earthquake that mirrors the earthquake in the original Ghostbusters film when the Ghostbusters arrive to Dana's apartment to take on Gozer. When Janine arrives at Egon's home to meet Callie, Trevor, and Phoebe, she says, "Can I help you?" This is what she would say anytime someone showed up to the Ghostbusters headquarters at the firehouse in the original film. There are beats in this film from Elmer Bernstein's score from the original Ghostbusters film. Egon Spangler left his home to his daughter and grandchildren. In the original Ghostbusters film, Ray was also left the house by his parents. The mine featured in the film, the Shandor Mining, belongs to Ivo Shandor. He was the architect who designed the building that Dana Barrett lived in on Central Park West in the original Ghostbusters film, and that's where the climax takes place with the Ghostbusters versus Gozer. Ivo Shandor is played by J.K. Simmons in the film, who is also in another Paul Rudd film, I Love You Man, where he played Paul Rudd's father and Hank Mardukas' best friend. During one of the summer school scenes, we see the kids are watching the film Child's Play, which was directed by Tom Holland, not Spider-Man Tom Holland. That film came out in 1988, 1 year before Ghostbusters 1989. The relevance between Child's Play and Ghostbusters is in Child's Play, Charles Lee Ray transfers his soul into a doll and then tries to transfer his soul and possess a young boy named Andy Barkley. Whereas in the original Ghostbusters film and this film, Zuul and Vince possess Dana Barrett Lewis, Callie, and Gary. Also, we get some foreshadowing from the scene we see in Child's Play of Chucky biting Karen's arm. During the Walmart scene, Gary also gets bitten by a mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. He also showed them the film Cujo, which came out in 1983, 1 year before the original Ghostbusters film in 1984, which is also foreshadowing for Zuul and Vince as they are Gozer's dogs or pets. We see a YouTube clip of the scene where the Ghostbusters arrive at Dana Barrett's apartment to save Dana and Lewis from Gozer, as well as the aftermath of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's destruction. Phoebe slides down the pole and finds a proton pack and many other things that belong to Egon. In the original film, whenever the Ghostbusters were called to duty, they would slide down the pole to gear up and then to go to the Ecto-1, very similar to how Batman and Robin would do so in the Adam West Batman TV series. Phoebe sees spores, molds, and fungus while she is down in Egon's lair. In the original film, Janine asks Egon if he has any hobbies, and he says, "I collect spores, molds, and fungus." When Phoebe is looking at Egon's Ghostbusters uniform, she finds a Crunch Bar. This is in reference to the original film that not only does Egon like Crunch Bars, but Peter Venkman gives him a Crunch Bar right before they're fired from the university. Phoebe watches a YouTube clip of Venkman, Ray, and Egon promoting themselves as the Ghostbusters for a commercial. This was the exact same commercial that Dana Barrett saw of them during the original Ghostbusters film in her apartment right before the egg started to crack and explode. Phoebe says to Podcast, "Switch me on," in regards to turning on the proton pack. These were the exact same words said by Ray Stantz in the original Ghostbusters film when Venkman, Ray, and Egon are in the elevator of the hotel getting ready to use their proton packs for the first time on Slimer. The way Phoebe and Podcast encounter the ghost, Muncher, in the warehouse is very similar to how Venkman, Ray, and Egon encountered Slimer at the hotel in the original Ghostbusters film, as they are both eating when we see them. They also both look somewhat similar in design, although Slimer is green whereas Muncher is blue. When Trevor, Phoebe, and Podcast are being pulled over by the sheriff, they check the glove box and find a Twinkie. This is in reference to the scene in the original Ghostbusters film where Egon uses a Twinkie to explain to Ray and Zeddemore that something big in regards to psychokinetic energy was coming, as well as the fact that Egon loves to eat Twinkies. Trevor, Phoebe, and Podcast getting arrested is exactly what happens to the Ghostbusters in the original film, where after Dickless shuts off the power to the grid at the Ghostbusters headquarters, he has them arrested. When Phoebe says, "Don't we get a phone call?" the sheriff says, "Sure you do, who you gonna call?" This is an obvious reference to the Ghostbusters song by Ray Parker, but it's also a reference to the line spoken by Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters 2, during the courtroom scene where he says to the prosecuting attorney, and I quote, "Kitten, I think what I'm saying is that sometimes shit happens, someone has to deal with it, and who you gonna call?" Phoebe uses her phone call to call Ray. The store Ray is in is called Ray's Occult, which we first saw in Ghostbusters 2. Ray has a tattoo on his arm, Revelation 6:12, which we heard him and Winston go over Revelation 7:12 during the original Ghostbusters film. And I quote, "And I looked as he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth, and the moon became as blood, and the seas boiled, and the skies fell." Judgment Day. When Gary Gruberson is in Walmart, he grabs a box of Baskin-Robbins ice cream. This could be a reference to Ant-Man, which also starred Paul Rudd, where his character, Scott Lang, after getting out of San Quentin prison in San Francisco, goes to work for Baskin-Robbins before being fired after his boss finds out about his criminal past because Baskin-Robbins always finds out. We all know the reference in regards to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man with all the mini ones coming out of the bags. But speaking of the bag that Gary sees in Walmart is a reference to the Stay Puft Marshmallow bag that Dana has in her counter in the original Ghostbusters film right next to the eggs before they started exploding and cracking. Also during the Walmart scene, a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man can be seen melting on a barbecue grill, only to give a thumbs up at the very last second. This is a reference to the end scene of Terminator 2 Judgment Day as the T-800 sacrifices himself. After Zool possesses Callie, Phoebe tries talking to her and she says, "There is no mom, there is only Zool." This mirrors the scene in the original film where Venkman tries speaking to Dana after she is possessed and she says, "There is no Dana, there is only Zool." Callie as Zool then asks Podcast if he's the Keymaster, very similarly to how Dana as Zool asked Venkman if he was the Keymaster. Podcast puts on the same helmet that Egon put on Louis Tully in the original Ghostbusters film when he was possessed by Vince Clortho, the Keymaster. In the original Ghostbusters film, Louis possessed by Vince finds Dana possessed by Zool laying down. In this film, the opposite happens where Callie possessed by Zool finds Gary possessed by Vince laying down. The dress that Callie as Zool is wearing is the exact same one that Dana as Zool was wearing in the original Ghostbusters film. After the new Ghostbusters get all their gear and the Ecto-1 out of the impound, we see a logo on the wall for the Stay Puft Marshmallow. This is in reference to the original Ghostbusters film where outside the Ghostbusters headquarters, we see a logo for the Stay Puft Marshmallow. When Venkman, Ray, and Xenomorph arrive, Venkman says, "Hey Flat Top, did you miss us?" In the original Ghostbusters film, when they are battling Gozer during the climax, Ray says, "Aim for the flat top." Ray's speech to Gozer about departing this world immediately mirrors what he said to Gozer in the original film when they first meet Gozer during the climax, and both times Venkman mocks Ray immediately after. Gozer, played by Olivia Wilde in this film, asks Ray if he's a god. This was the first question she asked Ray and the other Ghostbusters in the original film on the rooftop of Dana and Louis's apartment. We get some callbacks and nods to the original Ghostbusters film after Gozer is trapped and destroyed. Gary and Lucky being pulled out of Vince and Zool statues very similarly like how Dana and Louis were. Podcast covered in marshmallow like how the Ghostbusters, Dickless, and a lot of New Yorkers were in the original film. We see that Peter and Dana are married during the mid-credit scene, which begs the question, what is Oscar up to? The scene mirrors the first scene with Peter Venkman in the original Ghostbusters film where he's doing a psychic study with Jennifer Runyon's character and shocking the other male character on purpose so that he can sleep and flirt with Jennifer Runyon. As we mentioned in our Ghostbusters 2 Easter eggs video, the director of this film, Jason Reitman, who is the son of Ghostbusters 1 and 2 director Ivan Reitman, had a cameo in Ghostbusters 2 as the kid at the birthday party who said to Ray that his dad said that the Ghostbusters are full of crap. This film is the 5th time that Dan Aykroyd has played the character of Dr. Raymond Stantz. The other 4 are the original Ghostbusters film, Ghostbusters 2, a cameo appearance in Casper, and the video game Ghostbusters, which was released in 2009. Paul Rudd announced via social media that he would be joining the cast while standing in front of Hook and Ladder 8, which is the Ghostbusters headquarters in New York City. Bill Murray had been reluctant to reprise his role as Peter Venkman for decades, although he did return for the video game in 2009. He said in an interview that he finally chose to return for this film because the script is good, it's got lots of emotion in it, it's got lots of family in it, with lines that are really interesting, it's gonna work. We have a few actors from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this film. Carrie Coon, who plays Proxima Midnight from Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, as well as What If. Bill Murray playing a mystery character in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang from Ant-Man, Captain America Civil War and Avengers Endgame. And Bokeem Woodbine as the Shocker in Spider-Man Homecoming. Also, Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, was in everyone's favorite film, the Ghostbusters reboot in 2016. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Let us know in the comment section if we missed out on any Easter eggs, references, or trivia, and also let us know which one we went over that was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share the video. We will be posting some more videos soon. Until then, see you guys next time.